I'm going to use the map first so you just understand where we are. We left Bayeux and we drove to the west, and right now we are at Pointe du Hoc. If I use this map here, I show you La Pointe du Hoc with the different landing zones.
Good pictures.
There we go. So, different sectors: Sault, Juneau, Gold, Omaha, Utah. We are right here. So you see La Pointe du Hoc is right in between Omaha and Utah. And they were supposed to have 6 of those guns. And those guns had a range of action about 13 to 15 miles, which means that from La Pointe du Hoc, they were in a position to shoot on Omaha and Utah Beach. And that's the reason why the decision was made to send 225 rangers. Their mission was very simple, if I may say. They had to be at the bottom of the cliff at 6:30 in the morning, so at the same time than the waves on Utah and Omaha. So 6:30 in the morning, they were supposed to be at the bottom of the cliff. It's about a 100 feet high cliff. They were supposed to be at the top of to scale the cliff in 30 minutes. So they were supposed to be at the top of the cliff at 7 o'clock a.m. James Reuter, Colonel Reuter was the leader of the Rangers, was supposed to send a message to Omar Bradley. Have you ever heard about Omar Bradley? Important. Bradley was in charge of both Utah and Omaha troops. So he was the big boss of the both American sectors. So Reuter was supposed to send a message to Bradley at 7 to let him know they would be on the top of the cliff. That would be a success. The code for that was tilt, T-I-L-T. Tilt. That was the code for the success. Then Bradley was supposed to send another battalion of Rangers, 225 more men. They were supposed to dismantle the guns, those guns. Those guns were supposed to be in concrete circles like this one.
Fortification.
Not really fortification. Okay. Not because it was in the open air.
Okay. What a pillbox.
It's not really a pillbox because there is nothing above it.
I got you.
So 6 of them, they were supposed to destroy the guns, and when they were done with that, they were supposed to go inland, pretty much by the roundabout we were when we arrived, and they were supposed to do a roadblock there. Because again, we are right in between Omaha and Utah, so the idea was to disturb and break, if I may say, the route for German troops behind the 2 landing zones. World War II is the first movement war in history. Before it was position war, with trenches and you fight over the trenches. World War II is really the first war on movement. So the strategy is to really slow down, to pin down your enemy. That's the reason why they had to do the roadblock over there, so they would stop German troops to move from one landing zone to another one. So that was the plan. 6:30, climb the cliff, 7, destroy the guns, do the roadblock. This is what they were supposed to do. And of course, guess what? Nothing happened like that. And this is what I'm going to explain to you on the next stop.
Never does.
We had visited the Memorial Museum.
It was different.
There's 5,500 ships out there.
So I wanted to stop here because I'd like you to see the coastline over there. This is what you see right there. Let me show you on the map. So we are here, and what you see is Utah Beach over there. This is really where they landed on Utah. So you really, again, Pointe du Hoc is really in between 2 of them. So remember I showed you this picture of the guns. I showed you this. Here, this one, and I did not mention any pillboxes like that.
Right.
Because they were not supposed to be here. Until January, all the guns were in the open air. But in January 1944, Rommel came here. General Rommel came here. He was in charge of the defense on the Western Front from basically Brittany to Holland. So when he saw those guns in the open air, he got really upset because he understood they would be easy target for an airstrike. So he ordered the construction of those bunkers in January 1944. And guess what? They were not finished in June. So you see bunkers that never had any guns inside.
Oh, wow.
They were still being under construction when did it happen.
Yeah.
But still, it's nice to have it.
Yeah.
They never had any guns inside, never.
And he wasn't there that night.
Sorry?
He was not here
No,
that night.
he was
back in
Germany.
Berchtesgaden, meeting with Hitler and his woman, his wife. So the beach gets flat down here.
Yes, that's what you will see. This, the next stop will be on the beach.
They're still finding things in the water.
So remember, the plan was simple in a way. They had to be at the bottom of this cliff at 6:30, scale the cliff, 7, destroy the guns, send a message to Rudder, do the roadblock. Except that they were late. For two reasons. First of all, bad visibility. And second of all, strong sea currents we have here. So instead of it being at 6:30 at the bottom of Pointe du Hoc, they were beyond that point over there, like 3 miles off.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
So
And
come down the beach.
they had to come back here. Rudder understood it was the wrong location because he was expecting to see this obelisk you're going to see after, and he didn't see it there. So that's the way he understood he was on the wrong spot, basically. So they had to sail back, but as a consequence, the surprise effect was gone. So the Germans were waiting for them, and they were firing at them. So on the way back from 6:30 there to 7:10 here, because they made it at 7:10 to the bottom of the cliff, they lost 2 landing ships with men on board. They lost 45 men, and they also lost food reserve and ammunition, which were with the ship that sank. So at 7:10 they were at the bottom of the cliff. They still scaled the cliff in 30 minutes. And they were supposed to use grappling hooks like that. Let me show you, grappling hooks, where are they? Here we go. But also this didn't work the way it was supposed to work, because those grappling hooks have ropes. And those ropes, being in the water for a long time, they were soaked, totally soaked with water, and they were heavier than they were supposed to be. So on 21 hooks, actually 7 made it to the top. So yes, out of 41. So they used the ladder, and but they did it. They actually scaled the cliff in 30 minutes. At 7:40, Rudder had his headquarters bunker over there, which used to be the anti-aircraft gun bunker for the German army. So 7:40, okay, they're on the top of the cliff. Then he sent the message to Bradley, like he was supposed to do. Except he sent the message at 7:40 and not 7. And because it's late, and because it was such a bloodbath on Omaha, Bradley made the decision to send the other rangers to Omaha. So basically, Rudder was told he would finish the mission by himself.
7. 7 guys?
No.
Some more
about 180 made it to the
survivors.
Survived.
240, 225.
225, 180 at the bottom of the cliff at 7:10.
Okay, cool.
Then they went to the first circle where they were supposed to have guns. No guns.
Yeah.
At all. Instead, they had decoys made of telegraph beams.
That's right.
Okay? So they keep moving inland, and they go to do the roadblock like they were supposed to. Around 8, maybe 8:10, they secure the roadblock and they control the road. And then something crazy happened. 2 young rangers, their names were Kuhn, Kuhn, and Lommel, Lommel. So 2 rangers found tracks in the mud. They followed the tracks, and those tracks led them to an orchard about 700 yards from the roadblock, where they found 5 of the guns hidden in an orchard.
And they blew them up.
And luckily, those guns were not under German surveillance, so they took their chance. They had with them thermite grenades, put them in a barrel, destroyed the guns.
Yeah.
End of the story. So at 8:30, the guns were destroyed.
Mission accomplished.
Kind of, because they had to hold. Okay. And again, now they would have to hold by themselves. And if when they arrived there were just 30 German soldiers on top of the cliff, by now they had like dozens coming in. So they kept fighting for 2 days on their own until June 8th. The reinforcement came from the land, from Omaha basically. The boys from Omaha arrived here on June 8th around noon, roughly. And in the meantime, they had to fight with what they had. Again, they lost ammunition. So in fact, they had to use German guns. They took from German soldiers they killed. So they were fighting with German guns. They fight with their dagger. That's the reason why the dagger is so important to them. Their big knife, because that's sometimes what they had left, basically. But they kept fighting and they held the position. And when the tanks arrived here at noon on the 8th, in fact, they heard German guns. So they fired to their direction, except those German guns were in the hand of Rangers who were short on ammunition. So the last Rangers were actually killed by Germans.
Friendly fire.
Friendly fire. I hate this word, friendly fire. You have to find something else. There is nothing friendly.
I agree. I agree.
Improper word.
I'm trying something else, but
Yeah.
there's
They've been
nothing.
used to that.
I know.
Vietnam.
So yes, friendly fire, as you say.
Isn't that bad?
Yeah.
Kill your
And
own troops.
in the end, when the troops arrived from Omaha, basically on 225 Rangers, there were about 90 who were left able to fight. More there were alive, but many of them were prisoners or wounded. That's the story of the Rangers here. So for those who watched the movie The Longest Day, which I hate for that, because when I was a kid, I know they broadcast The Longest Day, every year at June, so I watch it like 20 times, I'm sure. And when you watch the movie, you see the Rangers scaling the cliff, and they fight, they die, and then you see them arriving in an empty bunker, and they don't give you any more information. So you have the feeling that they died for nothing.
Yeah.
But no, they forget to tell you about the guns they destroyed. And those guns, if they had not destroyed them, they would have used them on Omaha and Utah. So basically, those Rangers saved the lives of hundreds of soldiers, if not thousands. That's the reason why I don't like this part of the movie.
All right, so show me Pointe du Hoc again. Pointe du Hoc.
Pointe du Hoc is right there.
Okay. I'm sorry. Okay, where the
Yes. Again, they were supposed, to be honest with you, on the original plan, they were supposed to scale the cliff on both sides. But because they were late again, they
both
just
sides where it jets in.
yes, so right there and right there, in fact, on the left and on the right of the monument.
Gotcha.
But because they were late and coming from there, they went to the shortest way and they just scaled the cliff from basically the bunker there to the bunker there.
That's that original barbed wire from the war.
No.
That's to keep me from jumping off.
Yes. It's high tide, but I don't suggest you jump.
It is high tide now.
Yeah, it's high tide.
And what's
it's very
the-
soon to be high tide.
And what's the
Depends on the year. I can tell you
Oh.
today if you want. It changes every day.
just?
These tides here are unbelievable.
I know. That's why I just was
6 hours
curious.
water moves.
12 hours.
12 hours.
12 hours and 50 minutes, I guess. I don't remember. So today, high tide will be. Oh, it's very small. Oh, 47, yeah, of course. Oh, you have less than 3 meters difference. So that's
Oh, 3 minutes. Oh,
3
okay.
meters. No,
Oh, that's
meters
not
is like
that much.
10 feet.
10 feet.
Yeah.
Okay. That much water
Okay.
moves.
Yes,
Yeah.
the difference.
Low and high,
between-
low and high.
Yeah, 10
Gotcha.
feet. So there were 6 guns, and I told you they found 5 guns. There's 1 gun missing, by the way. Because the Allies knew about those guns, and they kept bombing the place since April, basically 1944.
Oh, wow.
In fact, I have pictures to share with you.
Even before June 6th.
Oh, way before. This is Pointe du Hoc on the 15th, Pointe du Hoc on the 25th, Pointe du Hoc on D-Day.
Wow. Look at that. Look at how they changed the
Yeah.
shoreline.
Yeah.
And this is the airstrike on the 25th, because on the 25th
25th of June.
of April, sorry.
April. Okay.
This is a very important airstrike because during that airstrike, in fact, they destroyed the gun that was there. And it's because of this airstrike, successful airstrike, that the Germans decided to hide the guns in their orchard while they would be finishing the bunkers. This is basically the reason why they were not on site, because they knew that until the bunkers would
Sure.
be finished.
Sure. The planes would destroy them.
Exactly, so that's the reason why they were hiding them. And yes, they had airstrike before D-Day, and on D-Day they had naval bombardments, mostly from the USS Texas, who was on shore over there.
The biggest firing ship. That was.
USS Texas was an old ship already because it was from World War I.
That's right. That's right.
But it did a hell of a good job here.
Yeah. Americans.
Thousands, and it gives you an idea of what the whole coast normally looked like after the day. Except that anywhere else we restore the land to go back to farming and everything. But here it was decided in the early days to keep it the way it was.
Historic.
Remember about the action here.
Yes.
So you see here the observation post, because although they never had any guns in those bunkers, you see the way it was designed. The bunkers with guns were not on the edge of the cliff, never. That's why they would avoid direct shots from enemy ships. But not being on the edge of the cliff, again, they didn't have a clear view. So what they had what they call observation posts, like that.
Oh wow! So that's what that was.
That's where they had German soldiers. They had some sort of a big binocular called a range finder, and by triangulation, cosinus and sinus, remember mathematics? They were able to evaluate the distance, precisely the distance of enemy ships, and then with lines, telephone lines, they would call the gunners to give them the coordinates. The gunners would fire, and then they would call them for the correction. But again, nothing happened like that because on the day they were still building the bunkers. Okay.
That's well laid plan.
That's again. Here I tell you the plan, and I tell you that it happened differently. This monument here is kind of interesting. It was erected in 1984 for the 40th anniversary. And 1984 is the first celebration of D-Day in France where we had the visit of a US president in office. It never happened before. Ronald Reagan, absolutely. Before that, celebrations were strictly military, only soldiers, no civilians. And I remember because I was 17 in 84, and it's the first time I met veterans. And it was great. I remember in my hometown we were all excited to see them because before that
Canadian as well. Canadian.
Oh yes, Canadians, British, Americans. They were coming from all over the
Australia.
world. All of them. If you're interested, you can go on YouTube online and you type Ronald Reagan Pointe du Hoc speech, and regardless politics, which I don't care at all. This speech is very interesting speech he gave about the Rangers, and many of them are still there. You see them, the Rangers in the audience. So it's very moving to see.
Okay, they were in the audience, yeah.
Yes, they were there on 1984.
Old Daddy Bush jumped out of an airplane here, didn't he, in 75?
Daddy Bush was in the war.
George Herbert,
yes.
I think, jumped out of the darn plane here with a 75.
Did he fight in Europe? I thought he fought in the Pacific.
Well, was it Reagan jumped out? I think one of them presidents jumped out.
Oh no, I'm mistaking.
Oh, you're right. George Bush did.
Sorry?
George Bush.
Yeah, he was saved by a submarine.
Okay.
In the Pacific?
The father.
Yeah, in the Pacific, yes.
In the Pacific, right.
In the Pacific.
So if you want, you can have access to the bunker if you want to see the inside. And after you can walk around outside the bunker, so you will see really beyond Pointe du Hoc, and you see the challenge they had to go through.
Unreal.
Okay, I will show you around.
So did this one have one gun in it?
No, none of them.
So the 5 was over there, and